For most of our lives, our psychological universe revolves around a single star, the ego, the I. Our conscious personality is the center of our world. Our desires, our fears, our plans, they are what matter most. The ego is the hero of our own story. But on the journey of individuation, after we have grappled with the persona, the shadow, and the anima, animus, a profound shift begins to occur. A cosmic reordering of our inner solar system. We begin to realize that the ego is not the center of the universe. It is more like a planet, an important planet, but one that revolves around a much larger, more powerful, and more mysterious star. Jung called this true center the self, with a capital S. Welcome back to Mapping the Soul. Today we arrive at the heart of the labyrinth, the destination of our long journey. We explore the archetype of wholeness, the regulating center of the total psyche, the self. The self is perhaps Jung's most profound and most mystical concept. It is the archetype that represents the totality of who we are, our conscious and our unconscious combined. It is the image of God within us. It is the part of us that is connected to eternity. It is the complete, whole human being we are striving to become. The ego is the center of consciousness, but the self is the center of the total psyche. The emergence of the self as the new center of our personality is the ultimate goal of individuation. So what does this shift from an ego-centered life to a self-centered life actually feel like? It is not that the ego is destroyed. The ego remains a vital and necessary function. It is our interface with the world, but it is humbled. It relinquishes its position as the absolute monarch and becomes a loyal servant to the deeper wisdom of the self. A person living from the ego is always trying to control life, to impose their will on the world. They are driven by their own desires and fears. A person living from the self is more like a sailor in tune with the wind and the tides. They are not trying to control life, but to align with it. They are listening for the guidance of the self and acting in harmony with a purpose that feels larger than their own personal ambition. How do we know when the self is becoming more active in our lives? It often appears in our dreams and imagination in the form of unifying symbols. Jung noticed that his patients, as they progressed in their analysis, would spontaneously begin to draw circles, squares, or four-part images. He recognized these as mandalas, the Sanskrit word for sacred circle. The mandala is a universal symbol of wholeness, of totality, of the self. It represents the union of opposites, a conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, light and dark, within a unified whole. The self can also appear in dreams as a figure of superior wisdom and authority. A king, a queen, a guru, a wise old man or woman. Or it can be symbolized by an object of immense value, like a precious stone or a hidden treasure. These are all signals from the psyche that a new, more integrated center is beginning to form. This shift also changes our relationship to the archetypes we have already met. The persona is no longer a false identity we are trapped in, but a functional and flexible tool we can consciously use to navigate the world. We can wear our masks lightly, knowing who we truly are behind them. Our relationship with our shadow is transformed. We are no longer afraid of our darkness, nor do we project it onto others. We have integrated its energy, which makes us more grounded, more authentic, and more complete. Our anima or animus is no longer projected onto our romantic partners, but has become a source of inner creativity and wisdom, a bridge to the soul. Life begins to feel less like a series of stressful problems to be solved, and more like a meaningful story that is unfolding. This is because the self provides a sense of purpose and direction that the ego alone cannot. The ego wants success, security, and pleasure. The self wants wholeness, meaning, and the fulfillment of our unique potential. When we are aligned with the self, our lives take on a mythic quality. We feel that we are playing a part in a larger, sacred drama. This is not a state of perfection. The individuated person is not a saint who is free from conflict or pain. They are simply a person who is no longer at war with themselves. They can hold the tension of the opposites within their own nature. They can be both strong and vulnerable, both rational and intuitive, both social and solitary. They are whole. The practice that leads to the self is simply the continuation of the entire journey. It is the sustained, lifelong commitment to listening to the unconscious, to integrating the shadow, to withdrawing our projections, and to humbling the ego. It is the work of a lifetime. And the self is not a destination at which we finally arrive, but a guiding presence that we learn to listen to more and more deeply. In our final episode, we will explore what this looks like in practice. We will discuss the individuated life and how a person who is centered in the self moves through the world, making decisions, navigating relationships, and living their own unique myth. For now, the practice is a simple, contemplative one. Find an image of a mandala, or draw one yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Simply sit with it for a few minutes. Gaze at its center. Gaze at its four corners. Contemplate the idea of wholeness. Of all the disparate parts of you are your light and your dark, your strength and your weakness, held together in a single, beautiful, unified pattern. You are not just looking at a symbol, you are looking at a map of your own soul's deepest potential.